Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. And today is a very exciting day here at PAC 14. We have one of my favorite people in here today, and even though he's one of my favorite people, it hasn't always been milk and honey between us, but we're working on making it milk and honey. And that is the Mayor of Salisbury, the Honorable Jim Ireton.
I like that. I'm the Salisbury's independent mayor, and you're Salisbury's independent newspaper. That's great. Yeah. That works well. This should bode well for this next half hour.
What can we do to maybe monetize that together?
I don't know. It would probably be illegal for me to do that.
Right.
I have to claim that as a contribution.
All right. So we'll just do First Amendment and try to work together to communicate to the people. And you have a lot going on.
Always.
Why is that?
Because
I thought once you got elected, you would just sort of sit back and enjoy being mayor.
No, it's Salisbury. There's always something going on. The good Lord giveth, the good Lord taketh away. We open up a firehouse music venue downtown that is absolutely incredible. I can tell you from the first night it was open.
Yeah, I think my invitation got lost in the mail for the.
You can't. We didn't want pictures. No pictures. You know, we open. You know, Headquarters Live opens, Labanal closes. Yeah. You know, you have this. There is always that here. I think it's like that everywhere, but for us, it's personalized because we own it, we live it. You know, we're sitting right here down here in it. Good news. Always has to be followed with things that are going to bring us down. Our civil discourse has come to that with the online community. But I think, you know, for myself anyway, I can speak for myself, my office, how I feel politically. It is no different than it was, you know, the second week into this in 2009.
Right.
So, you know, we're going to talk about Labanal for a couple minutes. You know, we've got great news coming out of our employees are healthier. Our budget surpluses look good. Our accessible base is expanding for the first time in 6 years. Our crime rates are plummeting here at the beginning of 2015. But you know, we still have Labanal. That still consumes our civil discourse. We still have a police officer that drew a gun on a dog, which has caused the media to go a little crazy. But things are fundamentally different from what they were in Salisbury in 2009 for me, and they're fundamentally different in the media than they were in 2009. And when I came into office and you were at the other paper, the way we communicated with one another is completely different today than it was back then. And that's kind of exciting. I'm kind of the kid who was the last of the Atari, Pong people, you know, that played those games. All of these kids that have this new stuff, and I'm getting used to it and being taught it by a younger generation and by people who have embraced that technology. But some days you just want to just go listen to your tapes and your albums and your XM 80s on 8 and let it go for a little while. But I cannot tell you at any time more than now that I'm excited to be the mayor of Salisbury.
Well, even in this week's paper, I mean, the Labanal thing, Saffron Labanal is going to close the plant at the end of 2016. It's reached a phase now. There's no talking them out of it. So what people are trying to do now is figure out how to deal with the employees. Greg Bassett,
I'm going to tell you right now why anybody would have done that to Barbara Mikulski, any other United States senator. I wouldn't have messed with that way, but it is pretty low considering her longtime commitment to Grumman, to that plant. The state of Maryland's commitment to that plant.
And the county and the city's commitment.
It is, the county did an amazing job when it was going from Northrop Grumman to Harvard and working with the state of Maryland to buy all of the equipment and the building and be able to refurbish it so it'll work. This is another example of profits over people, and I guess we talked a couple seconds before we started, you know, I'm not sure, I guess I'm lucky because the stockholders in my life are the 33,000 people who live here and the 150,000 who come in during the day. So I'm lucky that way. I don't have any problem standing out in front of that plant saying this was profits over people. So, you know, we're working on 3 tracks. The usual groups are working on retraining, refurbishing. Where I'm working on personally people who need education credits that need to come out of there,
Right.
The people who are working the phones, the people who are cleaning the bathrooms, the security guards, where are they going to go?
Right.
People who put together widgets for a Chinook helicopter have to be probably really good at something.
Right.
So we're hoping that if they don't come back because of a drubbing by Senator Mikulski, and by the way, I'll drive her to wherever she needs to do that. If they don't stay, I think we're ready and willing to take a look at that area in general, in terms of what the prospects might be for the Civic Center and that godforsaken parking lot across the street from the old mall. We're still
Right.
talking about the old mall. So my heart, my heart goes out to those people who have called my office, who have sent me emails, who have said on Facebook, thanks for sticking up for us. Nobody saw it coming. If I could have seen it coming, we'd have
Right.
drubbed them earlier than we
Right.
did. But again, it's profits over people, Greg, and one part of our country is going to say that that's good for the economy, and that puts money in somebody's wallet who already has it, and the other side's going to say it's profit over people. I stand with those people who are getting let out of that gate every
Right.
time they leave for the last time over the next 2 years.
Right. And as an editor, I have trouble navigating. Senator Mikulski sort of steered some money or some
$998 million for
some helicopter
another
work.
Yeah,
Basically, they make the dashboards for these big
Yep.
helicopters.
It's going to go to Northrop Grumman. Labanal is a subcontractor.
Right.
Labanal never told Grumman, never told
Okay.
anybody that they were going. So again, of all 100 senators, it just wouldn't be that woman that I'd mess with.
Right. But the money is sort of sent along to help the Salisbury operation to keep them whole. To
It
a
was
degree.
announced in December.
Yeah. Right.
That's going to go to the big parent company. Then it's going to come down to the subcontractors.
Right.
This particular subcontractor didn't tell anybody that they were leaving. So, again, we've looked at the demographics of Denton, Texas. We've looked at the tax. Again, it's demagoguing the issue. Congressman Harris is immediately in the newspaper. This is Maryland's bad business climate. I give $120,000
Right.
in tax offsets for this company for manufacturing tax exemption credits. Happy to do it.
Right.
Keeps them here. I'll tell you who says this, who takes this particular debate and puts it quite well, and that's our City Council President, Jake Day. He says, if we continue to play this shell game trying to get this company from over here to come here with this set of goodies that we give them so that some city over there can give them a different set of goodies, we're not going to make any progress. So I really am in total agreement with that we need to find something. If a business is going to come here and stay here, it's going to be because there's good schools, good recreation, safe neighborhoods, a good transit system. Those are the things that we need to work on in Salisbury and in Wycomico County. A tax cap is not going to help our schools,
Right.
help the county be competitive. Those, all of those things. We're going to talk in a couple of minutes about tax differential, but really, I think this is a failure of leadership at the county level.
Right. And as an editor, it's complicated for me, and as it would be for you as mayor, to figure out what is really more important. So you've got people saying, Mikulski, this is a pork barrel politics gone wrong. So
I said it.
They criticize her for that.
What's a Chinook helicopter in today's war on terror? I'm not sure.
Yeah. But they criticize her, and then like you mentioned, that Congressman Harris said, well, I look forward to Governor Hogan fixing this.
And if she hadn't given the money, she'd be soft on terror, and
Right,
that's what he
right.
would use to run against her.
Right.
It is a reflexive.
But you must face this all the time on every issue, every day.
Every online news source there is. It's okay. It's all right. That's our job nowadays. It used to be to put a smiling face, put lipstick on a pig.
Right.
It used to be that's what we did when these things happened. We would smile through it, and the powers that be would come together. They'd figure out what they were going to do. Our job as people in politics now, because what's going to happen is, because politicians are basically dumb, and they make dumb mistakes and they say dumb things.
Right.
Makes all the rest of us who may say some dumb things, semi-dumb things.
That would be you.
That would be me. Have done it a million times over the last 6 years. And the story becomes about the fight between the politicians,
Right.
the dumb things that people say, instead of a really long, drawn-out discussion, because
Right.
I believe Americans have the attention span. to work through that. I don't believe that advertisers and news directors today do. So it was interesting to be at that plant, the day of, to switch my schedule around, to go in and be there, to sort of lay down the gauntlet with the people who are leading that plant, who just have to say, we're closing.
Right.
They're going to help their employees with severance packages. They're going to take some employees with them to Texas. They're going to work with resume building. All of that stuff is going to have to be done. But for those of us who live here and who played in that plant as a kid, who set up Senator Mikulski's reelection announcement in Salisbury in that plant in 1992, as I did as a 22-year-old, these things mean a little bit more than just showing up and going, gosh darn it, somebody's leaving again. We're going to have to figure out. And that really is what I felt the response has been every time something like this happens. Instead of a systemic change that makes these things less likely, that makes us more sustainable.
Now you're getting traction on a new issue, which I've always sort of laughed at because I know nothing will ever happen with it, and that is the tax. The idea that the county taxes and the city taxes are not the same, that you provide more services but you don't get the money back from the county. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well, we had an election last November, and all of our good friends who said that government was bad and too big and not efficient and your taxes were too high won.
Yes,
and that's fine. I didn't necessarily vote for them. I voted for some of them, not all of them. But I have presented to those people, here's your first tax that you can cut. If you truly mean it, if you are that conservative, libertarian person who believes that we should give back as much as we possibly can if we don't spend it, then here is your perfect opportunity to tell the people of Delmar, Fruitland, and Salisbury that we tax you too much for the services that we don't provide for you. And here's my first tax bill. If I was one of those guys who won one of these county-wide offices in Wycomico County, I'd walk out and say, I'm going to do what Jim Ireton says because I've just fulfilled my campaign promise and I've done it 3 months into my... But we have to see how pure they are.
But as you know, there's a bias against the city. There always has been.
I can't imagine why.
Well, I've never really understood why. I mean, there's like you guys don't keep your affairs in order, and there's been the consolidation. This is the allegations. Consolidation is an idea.
Well, but the people now who say we want to consolidate make up these issues that we can't all get together in order to make.
Or they read the headlines in the Daily Times and they conclude that everyone's incompetent and the county needs to take over the city.
I can tell you that will never happen because there are. First off, I would fight it tooth and nail. Council President Day has been very clear that anytime that's happened, actually it is the city that takes over the county.
Yeah.
People have what belongs to them.
Yeah.
What I find is that I know that I am a resident of Salisbury and I'm a resident of Wycomico County. I wish I could get our Wycomico County leaders to recognize that I am both of those things.
Right.
That they do take.
They're talking about it a little bit. They make some noises like they understand that, and I think it helps.
I think so. I'll tell you who does. I think Councilman Kilmer understands. I think Councilman Hall completely understands. Remember, they drew those districts, and I sometimes believe that we have a federal case of disenfranchising of urban voters because the way that's drawn that only one council person now actually lives inside the city limits.
Right.
There has to be this discussion. They made their bed, Greg.
Right.
They said taxes were too high. So the question is are they going to live up to this promise? And I think it's a great way of saying we believe in fairness, and if we shouldn't tax you if we're not providing the service. I think what happens is that if they do it, then it's an admission, much like the fire service agreement, that they actually have been stealing for since the history of taxes existed in Wycomico County and the municipalities of Salisbury, Delmar, and Fruitland.
Right.
I said it the other day when I did the press conference about tax differential and fire service agreement, and the young kids that came to report on the particular issue, it went right over their heads, but I know that it'll resonate with you. I told them that the era of the good old boy network was over because we're not just going to do this anymore because of that wink, that nudge. Lebanon leaving is exactly what the good old boy, we're not preparing.
Right.
We're not making things sustainable. We're just going, things are fine. The same 3 people are making money and everybody else isn't because those people are here to make money for those three.
Right.
And that goes back in this area to colonial times.
Right.
In what people expect. It goes back to Michener's Chesapeake. It goes back to all of that.
So it's a fiefdom, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that with the rise of smart growth, with the rise of municipalities, with young people moving back into urban areas, those places are going to have to flex their muscles. The question is does Salisbury have enough muscle to flex just yet to get the county to realize that they need to do this? I don't know whether or not we're there yet. But I'll tell you this, the work that we're doing in Annapolis, Jake Day and I are doing in Annapolis right now, may make all of this moot. That the state may move Wycomico County from may do a tax differential to shall.
Right.
And that's our goal, is to go around this wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Right.
Let's just keep things the same.
And something you never imagined, Carl Anderton being elected the mayor of Del Mar is in favor of the tax differential because he faced it as a mayor himself.
I've had to do this the other day on public radio in an interview with Mayor Meehan, is I had to talk about the people who will be our champions this time around, and I had to say, I said to the report to Brian Russo, I said, Brian Russo, I'm going to say something, but I have to paraphrase and I have to explain a little bit or my phone's going to go off the hook. I didn't vote for Carl.
Right. But
I know Carl well. Carl was the president of MML, and he's always said highway user funds and tax differential are the first two things on his list. So I put out the tax differential on the fire service agreement press release. Carl calls, Jimbo, what are you doing? I was like, what'd you end up on the blogs, Carl? I said, welcome to the big time.
Right.
But I've been with Carl in Annapolis already. Jake and I have already been there with him, and Delegate Karen Krim from Frederick County, who comes out of Frederick City. That's her home county. We're going to get these issues in front of the Maryland Mayors Association coming up February 5th and 6th. I'm the vice president of the Maryland Mayors Association now. I don't know how you say you raise your hand by accident and off you go. But these things have to be addressed. And I think places like Ocean City, what we hope this legislation will do at the state level is not hurt Snow Hill, Pocomoke, and Berlin that actually get more money from Worcester County.
In Worcester, they do a grant system.
Right.
There's two different taxes.
And if you take a look at what Mayor Meehan has been able to accomplish since 2006, I mean, he never kind of got a response to the letter that he sent. I've never gotten a response. I've gotten a resounding harumph as I walked past the county executive door, and I love Rick Pollitt, everybody knows that, but it was a resounding harumph.
Right.
I think that if they make it possible for the municipalities that don't want it to change throughout the state, because there are some places that don't need it because they're getting more than they're putting in.
Right.
But we're gonna work the shore. We're gonna work Cambridge. We're gonna work the mid-shore. It's a tax cut, and all my Republican friends who run office are running away from it as fast as they can. And for the liberal Democrat to be sitting in your one-on-one show going, I'm the one who proposed cutting taxes.
Well, here's what I've seen with the county for a long time. And you mentioned Rick Pollitt by name, and he's sort of involved, but it wasn't just him. But things are too hard. So you go, why don't you guys do that tax oh, it's just too hard. Well, what about the fire services agreement? You know, the city, it's good what they're doing. Can you guys rectify that? Oh, it's just too hard. We wouldn't begin to know what to do. Civic Center. How are you going to save the Civic Center? Can you get alcohol in there? Oh, it would be just too hard to do that. But I don't hear a community conversation about how hard it would be.
Because those people who won those offices, who give you those answers, also had to deal with a tax cap that they are afraid to say anything about. Because it's not a tax cap, it's a revenue cap. And they're afraid to say it because they're afraid that one segment of the political periphery will come out of the woodwork.
Because they'll hear something else.
Screaming that, they're coming for your what? My taxes my taxes on my house per adjusted for inflation, the same as in the 1950s in Wycomico County.
This is amazing.
And I know people, and this is why I live in the city, because the toilet flushes. It goes to the wastewater treatment plant, built twice. I mean that's why I go to Annapolis to say that I think this flush tax is important, because they built it twice.
Right.
The trash collection, the streets are paved. There's street lights.
The water's good in this town.
We have incredibly good water, and 1.8 billion gallons of it came up out of our aquifer this year, and we provided that for our citizens.
Yeah.
So I believe that those services, I think Maryland's going to make it prohibitive to build any more developments, any commercial, industrial, residential, out in places where there has to be septic systems. I think they're going to make that prohibitive. Even under Hogan, I think they're going to make that prohibitive because the effect to the Chesapeake Bay is just too much. So everybody's going to have to live on existing water and sewer services. That's the municipalities. giving the tax break, giving the tax differential is also an economic development engine, because all those places that are in the industrial park, including our old friend, the Daily Times, including Westwood, that reduces their tax burden.
Right.
So that helps us, with Lebanon, and we did the numbers with Lebanon, reducing Wycomico County taxes over the last 5 years for them would only have saved them about $16,000, $17,000. But if a company is making that decision to leave or to go,
right,
based on the tax burden, I don't think they were doing it this time. Like I said, I think it was a demagoguing of the issue by Congressman Harris, because it's just reflexive for him to say it. Government bad, Democrats bad.
Right.
So at the same time, politically, and then we can move off of politics if you want to. Hogan won, Culver won, Andy Harris won. You're in charge now. If it doesn't work, we get to go blame you, because you can't just say it's Barack Obama. I mean, they're still saying it's Jimmy Carter's fault.
Right. You guys are still saying it's George Bush's fault, but
not first George Bush.
In our paper this week, we have the Labanal, the negative Labanal story, but then we have the new paddle boats out testing on the river.
Yep.
And you have Tony Severin in that story, the guy who's head of Chesapeake Shipbuilding, saying at the very end, he's hiring and he can't find anybody.
He can't find anybody, exactly. When you take a look at that,
of course,
corridor,
he also says the city won't let him build an extra building. He's all mad about that.
There's
but there's hope in everything that you see, and that's one thing as an editor that amazes me. I find hope in all of these stories.
I think that you're always, the coverage of these things is, it used to be Tony Severin says he wants to build, Ireton says there isn't enough square footage. I really don't know the reason.
Right.
But we would have this healthy discussion. It would, there would be long articles based on these things. But now the discussion is, Tony's mad. Let's see if we can get Jim mad at Tony, and then we'll watch a celebrity death match happen on front page.
There will be a fireball, and we'll take pictures of the fireball.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I know how that. Yeah, I understand.
When I take a look at that corridor, anyway, what's happening on a couple of those parking lots going out, open space money coming for a kayak and launch building, new stuff coming down into the marina, all of those things happening right there. The River's Edge Community for the Arts getting started. That is all indicative of infill construction, growth in the urban core, on water and sewer, help from the state in some cases, some things from Salisbury being offered. We've done a lot to market the downtown. We're still in negotiations on parking lot number 1. We have parking lot number 10 going back out. 4 proposals coming back up.
Parking lot 1 is the big lot.
Yes.
In the center town.
In the Old Town section.
Right. No, between the library and the plaza.
Yeah.
That's number 1.
That's number 1.
Number 10's out on the highway?
Number 10 is the one up on Route 13 by across from Royal Farms, behind the new State's Attorneys in the Paul Martin building.
And number 1, there's some progress there.
This is a process, if we could do a make it so number 1, it would be very easy. But you have to go through negotiations periods. You have to. I have to go and negotiate with our consultants, with the developer. I have to take that plan back to the council. I got to get enough votes to do it.
Right.
We're in the throes right now of getting a land disposition contract, which means we're on our way. We are lobbying the state to be a part of this in every way, shape, or form. And we have built much not to my surprise and Jake's surprise, but I think we were surprised at our effort, not how well we did, but how much we put forth into it, building a bipartisan consensus, even though one administration was leaving and another one was coming in, meeting with the Speaker of the House, meeting with the President of the Senate, Delegate Hadaway, getting the intergovernmental relations job now for Governor Hogan. That's incredible for the shore.
Right.
It really is. And to be able to bring Carl in and bring Mary Beth Carrozza in and say, we hear you. We hear what the chamber is saying. We hear what the new governor is saying. We cannot tax or fee or permit our way out of this problem. We're going to have to grow this economy. That's what this plan does.
But even that parking lot 1 thing is a cynical person who's been around here a long time, and I put in the story in the paper that here it comes and this is the idea. But I was like, that's going to be too hard. They're not going to be.
Absolutely not.
But you're finding a way to make it work.
This is, I honestly, I don't want to get mired down in it, but this is one of the things that the generation before me ran for the hills the minute someone complained.
Yeah, that's exactly the truth.
And I'm a hardened animal at this point after 25 years. I've lived through John Bosman and Joe Albero. You can't hurt my feelings. And I'm a public school teacher, so you can say anything you want about me. And people do, you know what I mean? You are innocent until proven, you're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
And that's both in politics and in education. Something happens, you have to prove that this didn't happen instead of the person who's saying that you've done this.
Right.
Has to do it. So there are streaks of you see it, but it's not going to stop me. And everywhere that I go, people, you know, the Giant, the mall, the Target, the Walmart, no matter where I am, downtown, Rody Joe's, downtown at Maya Bella's, how do you, and I just say, you know, you get up, and as long as you're at peace with yourself, that you've given it your best. The things that I am not at peace with are the ones that I've maybe not given my full effort, or I came off as flippant, or I came off as sarcastic.
Right.
And that's not me, because my humor will sometimes be misconstrued as sarcastic.
Right.
I have the utmost respect for all of those people who won those offices in Wycomico County. But you got to cut my taxes because you said you were gonna.
And it seems like you're trying harder to take the higher road and not be as flip or sarcastic.
No, I wouldn't call it that. I learned through the people.
Because I try to bait you on this stuff all the time. Christmas parade. I was trying to bait you to say something bad about the Christmas parade, and you wouldn't do that.
No, I mean, you know, I got my, when the Christmas parade went down, there were two things that happened with the Christmas parade.
I was talking about moving the Christmas parade back into downtown.
I thought we were talking about the protest.
No, no, not moving it down back into Salisbury.
Oh, that.
That's okay.
This is one of those things where sometimes you and I and the people that we know and the community we live for nostalgia.
Right.
We live for nostalgia.
Guilty.
I'm
totally
still
guilty.
wanting to walk into the Civic Center with my sisters and see Bjorn Borg and Eli Nastasi and Stan Smith. I still want to see those things because that reminds me of a time that some days I think may have been better for Salisbury. But that can't be.
Right.
Because we've grown hugely, 33,000 people. We have government that functions. We have problems that happen that we address. We are more diverse in an incredible way that could never have been seen back then. But I think the same crazy stuff that happens in the newspaper today was happening back then. We just didn't know it.
Right.
We didn't have the ability to take a picture of it, film it, and go, hey, look at this. I'm the first one who put this up on, you know, that. What has changed is back then, the media was interested in facts, figures, and discussion, and today the media is interested only in content that will get people to watch what it is that they're putting on.
They want the eyeballs.
And we've got 2 ball drops now underneath our belt, and I'm really going to have to work like hell to keep those people at the table doing this because they are exhausted.
Yeah, once they've done a couple.
You know, they're exhausted. I can, you know, Sue Piper, who will watch this, you know, the many years that she did, you know, the Salisbury Festival and did it with the likes of Bob Caldwell.
Right.
Did it through the 1976 where everybody had to be in dress. You know, people like that they got tired after several years. But I think with the downtown bringing a new generation of young people, and it's amazing to me that I am not that young person. So it's kind of an interesting situation to be in. But I'm lucky because I've never been part of the landed gentry. I've never been part of the cool kids club. And I never have to worry about impressing anybody.
You were total cool kids.
It was not only if you wore eye makeup and listened to 80s dance music. That was the only reason. That was cool.
And is there something wrong with that?
No, absolutely not.
I hate to do this. They're cutting us off.
Okay.
We're going to have you come back.
We'll come back and we'll talk about neighborhoods. We'll talk about bed and breakfasts. We'll talk about the state of the city that's coming up.
Do you want to come back soon, or do you want to come back around the election, or what do you want to do?
Let me say very seriously, thank you for doing this. Thank you for continuing the legacy of Phil Tillman and making sure that the public has a chance to.
We're just trying to have fun. It's all about having fun.
Thanks for having me.
Do you have fun as mayor?
Absolutely.
It's fun. It's a fun job.
It's a great job.
Jim Ireton is our guest. Unbelievable. He's a great guy. He really is. And he's our mayor here in Salisbury. And he's been our mayor for
6 years now.
6 years. And he's up for election in November.
2000.
And we're going to have him back and we're going to talk about all that.
Okay. All
right. I'm Greg Bassett from Salisbury Independent. Thanks for watching One on One right here on PAC 14.